I'm your host, CP Paulos, and welcome to Writer's Mind. And it's our first part of exploring the publishing world as we delve a little bit into traditional publishing. It's what everyone wants, right? We all want to go out there, write our book, make it best it can be, send it out, and hopefully a publisher will sign us. They'll see the same promise and love in our book we do, and they'll want to, sign us to a publishing contract, put the book out, and we'll sit back and we'll make money off of it and make a good career, entertain a lot of people, and live the dream. Thing with it is a lot of work goes into it. Publishers, for the most part, both big and small, they kind of have their idea what they want for a book. They like the idea, they'll go with it. The thing that I've learned over the years, I've met a lot of people that were traditionally published, went through small presses, self-publish, vanity press. Because this is something I had to go through when I started doing it. I had to look around and decide what I wanted to do. And I decided self-publishing. We'll get into that a little bit later, the reason why. But in traditional publishing, you have to go through all the process. You have the query letters, the synopsis. You have to sell your book. And it can be easy. It can be hard. Some people have pointed out a few books I've read about people about the publishing industry. A lot of times the actual publisher may not see it. Like DJ won't see it. They'll have the secretaries, and they'll read it. If they don't like it, like my boss doesn't want this, or this is what we're told to look for, various things, it'll be refused before it even gets to the desk and accept the person that can actually sign you. So it's getting through that level. There's so many levels you go through, so much preparation. There was an argument before with a lot of people, Sue Grafton made this, and it's a valid argument. It's very valid that as you're rejected, you keep learning more. You learn more what to do, more what's expected, more maybe how to improve the writing, how to improve the editing, and how to query it, how to promote it. You learn more every time. You refine your craft until you're finally good enough to be published. That's a valid point. That's totally valid. But again, it's also, if they feel they can sell your book. Publishers aren't, kind, benevolent, beings that would just hand out publishing contracts. They are in the business to make money, like any business, right? Even as authors, we'd like to make something for our time, especially if we put money into it and effort into it. We'd like to get something back. And then they've got to make their own living. They've got to make their company money. So if they don't feel they can make money off of it, they're having some technical issues. I was just saying, it's like the publishers, they're in to make money, and if they don't feel they can make money with our books, no matter the genre, it could be the greatest thing ever written, but if they don't feel they can make money, they won't publish it. Smaller presses tend to be more lenient. They'll sit there, we're all good people, but the indie publishers are more like us, the dreamers. They want to make something happen. They want to share it. And so they'll look at it. If they feel they can make money, again, they'll bring us in and they'll sign us. Now, it won't be the big contracts you might get with the other big publishers, but, it actually gets to work out. We have a support group. We have people that work with us, help make our dreams reality. But one thing, like I said, the big thing that I've found, and this is, I don't know if this may have changed. This is what I've always heard, and I might be getting a little bit more skewed this way, but like when it comes to the traditional publishing, unless they feel that you are worth a lot, that you're going to be a big hit, they tend not to put that much. They may not put that much behind us. They'll sit there and make, okay, here's a little push, but it's up to us as the authors. We've got to do the social media. We've got to do the marketing. We've got to do all of that. We've got to sell the book, which, we really should do because it's our baby. We want it out there. We can be successful. But we do a bulk of it. At least that is what I have been told, and that's what I've read of people saying that they experience. Now, it's not always true. Some people really put everything into it. They really believe in it. They set up all the book tours, book signings, everything else. Others kind of, okay, we signed you, going your merry way. Another aspect to keep in mind on if we do this route is the finances. Now, just say roughly you get a $30,000 advance for 3 books. That's roughly $10,000 per book. And now if you think about it, each year, it takes about a year to put out a book, that's $10,000 a year. Now we get that advance, but I made it, I'm full time. quit our day job, dive into this. Yeah, for now. But we're looking at it being over 3 years. So it's 10,000 a year. That's not a whole lot. And then that's a lot of work we put into it. So we have to be mindful of that so we don't just run out and just quit our day job, just go full into this, because it's a little tricky like that. I mean, it's easy to see the numbers and go for the gold. So it's little things we have to be mindful of it when it comes to traditional publishing. Like I said, like a lot of times we have to fit in their box. The payments, like I mentioned there, like you get that up front, and until that's paid off, actually, until your book sales match that and all the expenses, you don't see a royalty check. That's in advance what they feel you will earn. So it's you have to earn that back, and then you start getting your royalty checks. So that's one thing we have to always keep in mind. All these different little aspects. It can be a great ride. It can work out phenomenal. It's up for each of us to decide what we want to do. It's just how we look at it, what we want to do out of it, what do we want to achieve out of it. There's nothing wrong with going to traditional publishing route. I mean, it's great. Personally, I chose the self-publishing route because I didn't want to sit there and say, well, what if they did this wrong? What if they did that wrong? I didn't want that. I didn't want that. I didn't want that opportunity in my head. I want that. Okay, you know what? It stops here. If this doesn't work, it's my fault. I'm responsible. I don't want to, be able to blame somebody else. I also have bad luck. I'm almost the kids of death of publishers. 4 publishers I looked at, I was thinking about going, mostly indie presses, and one on Amazon actually. And every time I looked at them and I was ready to go into it, shortly afterwards, they would close. Okay, now I either have bad timing, bad luck, or I'm just not talented. It happens. So, whatever we choose, let's do our due diligence and do what's right for us. Thank you for your time today. Sorry, last time I should the day, I promise. But once again, thank you for your time. If you have any thoughts, opinions, or advice you want to give, please feel free to share in the comments below. Love to hear from you. And like to hear about your publishing journey. What worked for you, what didn't work. All right, so again, once again, thank you for joining me, and have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.